I'm Vasel. Welcome to Crowd Surfing. This is a show where we talk about Kickstarter, the different projects that are on Kickstarter, and we have different segments from contributors. And in fact, I like to put out the call here. If you are interested in doing a segment on a bi-weekly standby where we put them out on this show and you want to talk about that, then let me know. We're always looking for more people to be involved. But before we get into those segments, as always, we start with the news. Okay, so first of all, we have Liberation, asymmetrical hidden movement game. This is from Button Shy Games, and they're mostly known for making very small games. This looks like a smallish style game where you're building a little map out of cards and going back and forth. One side is trying to find the other side, so like a little bit of deduction involved. It almost looks like a mini version of Star Wars Rebellion, with a different theme, of course. Heroes, Tales of the Tomes. This is from a first-time publisher. This is a game in which you're playing hero versus hero fighting combat style game, but you are using a single deck of 158 cards. You have some special abilities, but everything else is a shared deck. I don't know how that will work. I've seen shared decks before, like in deck building games and things like that. The way the game is set up, it looks a little bit like Rum and Bones to me, distilled down to a card game. Wormwood makes some of the best dice towers in the world. Magnetic dice towers. I have a couple. They are very, very pricey. They use all kinds of weird, strange, but really cool looking woods. They're just tremendous job, but they're upper tier dice towers. And so they have the Kickstarter for more of them with different woods that they haven't used before. Now they have a couple interesting things. They have some maps on the sides of them. Designed by an artist that looks really great with these maps imprinted on the side. I really like how they look. Cartography towers, I think they're called. Then they have a roll the dice thing where you basically can just say, send me one. And they will figure out the odds, and one person might get the rarest one of the bunch, and someone else might get the second rarest wood, but most people will get the cheapest wood. So if you want to take a bet, I don't know if I like this sort of thing in Kickstarters. It's like those grab bags, which are usually bad, but here you could get something good. So what do you want to roll in your dice tower? Well, how about some birthday gemstone dice? I was looking at this thinking, has no one done this before? But I don't know, maybe no one has. But you can get dice that look like your birthday. So, you know, you have the ruby. And then actually, these dice look pretty good. And they're not that expensive, I thought, for a set of the dice here. So I have my dice for my birthday here. They look really nice. I might get a couple of these sets. Dungeon Alliance. This was a really big Kickstarter. This is the sequel to it with more adventure packs. Dungeon Alliance is a cooperative puzzle style dungeon crawl. Think Gloomhaven a little bit, where you're going through and working. I have played this game, actually. My review is coming at some point. I was not a huge fan of it, but want to put a little bit more thought into it before my review comes out. My Kickstarter of the week, though, is from Quinted Games. It's a trio of games that they're releasing at Essen. First, we have Counterfeiters. This is about anthropomorphic animals counterfeiting money in Miami. And I really like the components of this game. It looks fun. It looks silly. It looks great. Raiatea? I'm not sure how to pronounce this one. Kind of on a jungle island type thing. You have your high priest. And again, this one just has a really good look to it. Quintet always, nowadays, is making some really cool looking games. But the one I'm most excited about is Firenze. Oh, a reprint of the classic Dungeon Tower game. In fact, I have the original right here on my shelf because, and if you know, I keep very few games. I think this game is fantastic and you should get it. All right, a new game from a first-time publisher, Dungeon Derby. Now this has some pretty terrible art. And you're betting on animals that are racing or fighting, or I'm not actually sure what's going on, in monsters, and there's some stuff that's done in real time and rolling dice. But it looks like a horse racing game with some betting and stuff, and it looks like it might be fun despite the fact that I'm not initially attracted to it. Just going in, I'm like, maybe I would enjoy this. I just wish it had a better presentation. A big Kickstarter, Power Rangers, Heroes of the Grid. This is from Renegade. Renegade does not do many Kickstarters, but this is one they have done. It's a cooperative game, and it has lots and lots of art and lots of miniatures, including Voltron. I mean, Megazord. And so, in fact, if you look at the Kickstarter page, most of the Kickstarter is concentrating on, look at this Power Ranger and their cards and their art, and look at this miniature and this and this and this, and finally at the bottom, like, and yeah, here's kind of how you play the game. I hope the game is good. It's designed by Jonathan Ying, who's one of the designers on Star Wars Imperial Assault and other things, so I'm sure it's a great game. It just cracks me up that it seems like most of the Kickstarter is about, look what you get. Mr. B Games is coming out with Hellenica, The Story of Greece. Now, this is a huge, sprawling style, civilization-looking game, although there's mythological elements to it. And so, I'm kind of curious, you know, the civilization, this is a big attempt, right? Whenever someone makes a new civilization game, it's going to be compared to, well, Civilization or Through the Ages. Will this one, you know, stack up to those other ones? Walhalla. I give these guys credit for a great name. This is basically some modular 3D printed stuff you put on your wall, put them together with different materials and stuff, and you can see them here. You can then display your minis. Now, I'm probably not interested in that too much because, well, I don't have any minis to display really that I've painted anyway. But the 3D printed thing worries me a bit. I would rather it just be fully produced than 3D printed. But I do like the idea, and it looks like a neat way to display your miniatures. Adrift Lost at Sea. This is a 2 to 4 player cooperative game. Now, this game does not look actually that fantastic. It looks okay, and it looks like some people are going to pass on it right away, because in this game, you are making a random or generating a sea shanty, which in the Kickstarter, some people are singing some of theirs, which I think some people will be like, I'm out. But I have to give them credit. This is an interesting idea. I like the concept of it a lot. I just hope the game is good. And finally, more dice. Q Workshop, top drawer dice. So Q Workshop is doing a Kickstarter. Everyone's doing a Kickstarter these days. Q Workshop dice are very specific. Some people like them more than others. I'm not a huge fan of them as much because I think they're too busy. I'm not always able to read the numbers very easily on many of the dice. I mean, some of the pictures here are big, but when the dice are small on a table, I want them to be clear and see exactly what I've rolled. But they do look pretty. I just don't think they're very functional, but some people love them. Anyway, that's the Kickstarter stuff in the news, and let's keep moving.
Hey, and welcome to another FOMO, the segment where I take a look at a game that's currently seeking crowdfunding right now that maybe I have a fear of missing out on, and maybe you do too. And let's take a look together. Today I'm going to be taking a look at a game called Infinity's Defiance of Fate. Infinity's Defiance of Fate is a 4X light type game for 1 to 4 players that can be played in either a skirmish or story mode. In the skirmish mode, players will go head-to-head, besting their opponents for points based on the scoring cards. In the story mode, players can either play a one-off or combine stories into a soft legacy campaign, making decisions that affect the world and the story as it progresses. In addition, the game offers a rich solo option that offers a separate solo quest for each of the leaders included within the game and can be ramped up for added difficulty. Players choose a faction and a leader to play that comes with its own unique abilities. All players will lock a die based on their current location and roll the remaining dice at the start of a round that will then fuel their actions. Energy can be spent to deploy units to battle, and it can also be used to play action cards, and these can be played from either hand or from the player's timeline. Fortitude can be spent to move, explore, and discover new areas of the world, and reaction tokens spent to claim those new areas. Power can be spent to initiate attacks upon their opponent's units. Boost symbols can be spent to change the face of other dice. Stars can be used as while to perform any of the other basic actions. In addition to these basic actions, each leader has their own set of actions that they can be used, and grouped units offer even more options. Tiles on the board can be claimed for control, offering various abilities and also powering up the leader and their 3 stats, making them even more formidable. Players take turns using their action dice until all players have spent their dice. Then each player can prepare a card to their timeline from their hand if they have room. They may even be able to keep cards if they control tiles with the boost symbol. Cards that have been prepared not only are saved for the next round, but also can offer their prepared effect if one is printed on it. They then discard the remaining hand and draw back up. In the skirmish mode, the Rift event causes the world to be changed based on a dice roll that can flip over tiles in play. Turn order is set by the numbers on the tiles the players currently occupy. Play continues in skirmish mode until a player reaches the set threshold of points and is victorious. In the story mode, play continues until an objective is met, which leads the players to the next part of the story or leaves them in defeat. So that's an overview of Infinity's Defiance of Fate. Now before I get into my thoughts on this, I got to sit down with the designer of this game at this year's Dice Tower Con. So I'm going to let him speak to you first, and then I'll be back with my thoughts.
Hi, I'm Steven from Vasel Entertainment Studio, and this is Infinity's Defiance of Fate. This is an accessible, medium-weight 4X experience for casual players and veterans alike. You're going to have tactical card play, meeting dice actions, meeting map building and control, with asymmetric objectives for sci-fi and fantasy factions that are clashing through a multiversal rift. In the game, you have a competitive mode, which is victory point based. It is modular, so you can scale it to the playtime you want. And there's also a story mode, which includes multiplayer and solo adventures for you and your friends.
Why should they back it?
You should back it because for $39, you're going to have 100 hours of solo content, 100 or more hours of multiplayer story content, and endless competitive content with your friends either at home, at game stores and tournaments, or elsewhere.
So I really appreciate Steven sitting down with us at this year's Dice Tower Con. As to the game itself, I'm going to keep this relatively short, but I love this game. The skirmish mode scratched my itch for a 4X in a lighter amount of time. It really does play about 30 minutes per player, even the first time you play it. The campaign mode, the story, is wonderful. It's soft legacy. You can make these decisions that do change the story in the world, but without messing up your game. But where this game really shined for me was in the solo game. There was just something about it. It has these unique stories for each leader. And you can go over to my non-Dice Tower channel and you can see that I did a full playthrough of the preview story that's included in the game that I was received. And I just gushed all over it. And when I was done editing that video, I've played it 3 more times since. I still haven't got a victory, and I want to play it again when I'm done with this. The artwork, while not completed in my copy, is really good. I really appreciate it. And I really like this mix-up of fantasy and sci-fi going on. So if you're looking for something that gives you some 4X feeling, or gives you a campaign or a story, or you really want a well-made solo game that you can play quickly and reset quickly, this is a game to take a look at. If this game has interested you, go ahead and check out their Kickstarter page. It should be live at the time you're seeing this, and I look forward to seeing you folks in the next episode.
So what's the hook that gets you, the lure that brings you in to a Kickstarter campaign? You know, campaigns will have all sorts of things, you know. Hey, it's limited time only. Get it now or never get it. I mean, that's like the ultimate one, right? You can only get this through Kickstarter. Not a ton of those campaigns out there, but get it now or forever not get it. Another hook might be, hey, get a whole bunch of stretch goals. So I'm going to be a little bit less marketing like that. I want to know actually, like, what are your personal preferences? What are things that attract you to backing a Kickstarter? And again, I'm not talking about the marketing, like I like this because it has a good video, but like what physicality stuff brings you in. So the lure of, ooh, that's something interesting. So everyone has different things. So for me, I just want to talk a little bit about some of mine. So for me, accessories. Accessories are always fascinating to me, whether it's an insert for a game or upgraded pieces for a game or dice towers or some interesting accessory for a game. Those are things I'm like, ooh, that sounds interesting. Because I like to make my games look cooler and neater and blinged out. And so that's something that attracts me to a game. Also, a unique, intriguing theme that I haven't seen before. That I'll sit there and go, ooh, then that's something that I might be interested in getting. Or beautiful artwork. Beautiful artwork I'm a sucker for. I'm actually not as big of a sucker. As much as I like miniatures, it seems like every Kickstarter from these days has tons and tons of miniatures. But beautiful artwork for a game. I look at it like, wow, that looks just fantastic. You couple that with a unique, interesting theme, and suddenly I'm like, this seems something that I'm interested in. An expansion for a game I already own. That's an easy one because I know I like the game already, and getting the expansion is an easy addition to getting that on. And so those are things that kind of attract me to looking at a game. Miniatures also works to some degree, especially if they're neat miniatures. What I mean is, a lot of campaigns run off these grotesque, you know, like, look at this, you thought Kingdom Death Monster had weird monsters, we'll make them weirder, and Simon does a lot of this, you know, look how disgusting, and the miniatures get more and more disgusting. I'm not looking for that. I'm like, ooh, maybe a cool robot miniature, maybe something that's interesting. It's not your typical, Conan and busty woman miniatures. I'm looking for something that looks a little bit different, and when I see that, that also is intriguing to me. So those are some lures that will bring me into a Kickstarter. Food also something, but that's not really games. But if you make a new hot sauce or some beef steaks... Anyway, I digress. Let me know in the comments, what are the lures that get you? When you see something in a game, you're like, that makes me much more likely to back it than not. I'm not talking about, again, you know, the length of the Kickstarter or how good the video was, but like about the Kickstarter, the game itself, what is your lure?
This is Jamie with Stonemaier Games, and today I'm going to talk about your launch day. This is the day that you launch your project to the world and either meet your funding goal or at least start to establish the momentum towards reaching that goal. I'm going to harken back to my viticulture campaign in 2012 because this was my first tabletop Kickstarter campaign and there were a lot of uncertainties on that day. So I did a few things that I think helped with the success of the project, helped get it off to a fast start, and some things that didn't work quite as well. One thing that I did that I think was a good choice was that I took the day off work. I had a full-time day job at the time, and I decided I didn't want to divide my attention between that job and my hopefully incoming backers. So I took the day off work. I highly recommend that. I announced the campaign in a variety of different formats. One, I had a small, very small e-newsletter following at the time. So those are people who had opted into the campaign. They were aware that it was going to happen and they wanted to know more. So I sent out an e-newsletter to them. I also had a content hub at the time. For you, it might be a YouTube channel, a podcast. For me, it was a personal blog. So on the day of my launch, I posted a blog entry about the campaign to let those people know that I hope that they would back it or at least take a look at it. There's also Facebook, social media. That can be very important for those different types of social media content hubs to let your followers know about it. But please be very careful not to spam your followers, especially on the first day. I see some content creators who post one time after another on Facebook on their launch day, and it just gets annoying. The last thing, especially for a new creator, that was really, really important to me was sending emails to friends and family. If you're going to send mass emails, I'd recommend dividing them into different groups. So maybe have a friend mass email and a family mass email, because you probably talk to those people in different ways, and you might relate to them in different ways too. If you're sending this in a regular email platform, make sure to blind carbon copy everyone and not regular carbon copy everyone. And also, in that email, explain why the project is important to you, why it's personally important to you, and give people a call to action. Even if it's just, hey, I hope you look at the project page. That's a call to action. That gets them to actually act on that email. The one other mistake that I see on launch day that I don't think that I did, but I see a lot of creators doing, is that if your project does well on launch day, you're going to be really excited about it, and that's great. I was really excited when viticulture, I think we raised maybe $12,000 on the first day, which was about half of the project goal. Don't post more than one project update on launch day, because that is an easy way to get people to unsubscribe to your campaign. If you're launching update after update, explaining things, showing how you're meeting different goals or stretch goals, that even though it can be exciting, consolidate it down to one project update on that launch day. Don't go over one. You can do another update on the next day or the next day, but only one on that first day. Last, if you find yourself, maybe the project isn't off to as good of a start as you want, or you just find yourself having some extra time, which may not happen on your launch day, but it is possible. I highly recommend, whenever you get a new backer, reply to them with a message thanking them for their pledge. This may seem arduous, it may seem time-consuming, but if you have that time on the launch day in particular, this can be a great day to start to establish those relationships with your backers and to show them that you're doing something different, that you're paying attention to them as an individual backer, and thanking them for their pledge, especially if the project means a lot to you, and hopefully it does. These are a few things to think about on launch day. If you have other things that you want to discuss, feel free to visit my Kickstarter Lessons blog. We can talk about them there or in the comments below. Thanks.
Hey, hello there, Crowdfund Nation. I'm Gil Mello, and welcome to another Super Backer, where I tell you about the game that I recently backed. And it's no secret that one of my favorite publishers are Quintet Games. Their components are excellent and high quality, and this time they came with a triple dose into Kickstarter. They just put it out 3 games, their Master Collection series. So they're doing a reprint of Firenze, an excellent game that was printed almost a decade ago. Their new game Raiatea and Counterfeiters. Although I'm very excited about Firenze, the one game that I'm really excited about is Raiatea. So in Raiatea, players will act like a secret Polynesian religious society. And so all the players will try to build the Arioi, which is that colossal statues, and attempt to gain favors from the god Oro. And they will do this by sacrificing mana to the gods and achieve their goals, so you can become the highest priest on the village. The game is played over a set of rounds, and it will depend on the number of the players, but the rounds are divided between normal round and ceremony rounds. During these rounds, you try to optimize the contribution that each clan will give to the Toe statues. During the regular round, when it's your turn, you choose the location tiles. You and all the other players execute what is showing on the tile, and sometimes you're gonna get a bonus for it. Then the play will continue round and round until all the players have selected a tile. In the ceremony round, players will follow 6 steps. So after all the players have selected the tiles, this is where your ritual cards come into play. You select a few ritual cards and place them in the bag. And then every player will bid an amount of mana. Each ritual card has a mana cost, so sort the cards in ascending order by the cost of mana. And then you execute all the ritual one by one until you run out of ritual tiles or mana. Structure there are two statues. Each tile has a different pre-required thing that you have to fulfill, and you have to do it in players' orders, and you try to be quick to get the good ones before somebody else gets a chance to take that. And then at the end of the first 2 ceremony rounds, you will unveil the next statue to see what you need to accomplish for that specific statue. Other than Firenze and Raiatea, this Kickstarter also included another game from their Pocket series. This particular one is Counterfeiters, so you'll be counterfeiters trying to print money and exchange them for the real things. During the Kickstarter campaign, you'll also be able to acquire some other of their games. They're all listed in their page as add-ons. Games like Carson Cities, The Big Box, and Keyflower, Papa Paolo, Vuanato, and many others of their bulk series. I have not backed every game that Quintet has put it out, but they have a huge pedigree like Carson Cities, Vuanato, Papa Paolo, Halloween, and Agra. So amazing games, amazing quality, and this was an easy back for me because there's some of the games like Firenze that I was looking for, and in coming in a brand new format with a new art. They also have their Pocket series. So if you're like me that loves arrows and loves a good quality chunk pieces on your board game, it's worth take a look at Quintet Games' new Kickstarter. Thanks very much for watching, and I see you guys next time. And don't forget, keep funding those games.
All right, there you go, another crowd surfing. Once again, if you're interested in being part of these episodes, email us at tom@dicetower.com. All right, well, we do these every 2 weeks. Don't forget, of course, every time someone says you did not mention something, well, I usually cover a span of about 15, 16 days when going over these. So if I didn't mention it this one, there's a good chance I'll mention it in the next episode. Anyway, until next time, I'm Tom Vasel. You've been watching Crowd Surfing on the Dice Tower.